Hello viewers, this is Nimrod TV and you're watching Perspectives with me, MARYAM Olubode. The political landscape in Nigeria is shifting once again. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is not backing down. Instead, he's doubling down, rallying forces, forging alliances and preparing for what could be the biggest political showdown in 2027. His goal? To unseat President Bola Tinubu and break the dominance of the All Progressive Congress, APC. But here is the real question. Is this a master stroke or just another opposition dream that will fade before election day? The mission was meant to bring peace, but now it's turning into a nightmare. A Kenyan police officer deployed in IT has gone missing after a violent gang ambush, raising serious concerns about the safety of the Kenyan-led multinational security support mission. This is Kenya's first major crisis in IT, and it's only the beginning. The war in Ukraine has taken a new turn. Russia and Ukraine have agreed to stop using force in the Black Sea. A ceasefire deal, brokered with the involvement of the Trump administration, is now in effect. For the first time in months, there is an official agreement to halt attacks on commercial vessels, port infrastructure, and energy facilities. This is a significant development in a war that has devastated economies, pushed towards the brink of an energy crisis, and reshaped global alliances. But here is the real question. Is this the first step toward ending the war, or just another pause before the next escalation? Because if history is an indicator, Russia does not pause for the sake of peace. It pauses to regroup, rearm, and re-strategize. All of this in welcome me, but first the news headline. Labour unions threaten national shutdown over reverse crisis. Atiku's Grand Coalition, a political earthquake or power play. Kenyan officer missing in IT after gang ambush. Russia-Ukraine Black Sea ceasefire. Gaza erupts, the people turn against Hamas. Trump's executive order, a masterstroke or democracy nightmare. Richard Reeves' welfare calls. Now to the news in details. Nigeria on the brink. Labour unions threaten national shutdown over reverse crisis. The country's powerful labour unions have drawn a line in the sand. If the federal government does not reverse its controversial decision to suspend Rivers State elected leadership, Nigeria could come to a standstill. At the heart of the crisis is the federal government declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State, a move that led to the suspension of Governor Siminala Ifubara, his deputy, and members of the State House of Assembly. The official reason? Political instability and pipeline vandalism. The solution? A retired vice admiral has been installed as the state's new caretaker. But is this governance or a power grab? Labour leaders are calling it a constitutional coup. The Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC), Trade Union Congress (TUC), and the Joint Negotiation Council (JNC) said this decision is not just illegal. It is a direct attack on democracy. Their argument: the people of Rivers elected their leaders. Removing them without due process is a dangerous precedent. And the fallout is real. Civil servants in Rivers State are already suffering. Many have not been paid their salaries. And now, the unions are saying, if this crisis is not resolved, the entire country will feel the impact. We will not sit back and watch democracy being dismantled, a top Labour official declared. If the federal government does not reverse this decision, we will take actions that will disrupt the economy at a national scale. This is no empty threat. Nigeria has seen the power of organized labor before. Nationwide strikes have crippled industry, grounded flights, and shut down entire cities. If the unions follow through, President Tinubu could be dealing with more than just a state-level crisis. It could be staring at a national emergency. The question now, will the government back down or will it double down? For now, the clock is ticking. Nigeria is watching, and a single decision could determine whether the country moves towards resolution or towards chaos. Moving on, Atiku's Grand Coalition, a political earthquake, or just another power play? Atiku has been here before, 6 times to be precise. He has contested for the presidency more than any other major Nigerian politician. And yet, the presidency has always remained just out of reach. Now, he's making another move.
We are gathered here this morning to convey our grave concerns with challenges that our democratic experience is going through. We are a cross-section of leaders and political stakeholders from across the country. We have come together to address the dangerous and unconstitutional actions taken by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on March 18, 2025.
One that could either redefine Nigerian politics or expose the deep fractures within the opposition. This time, Atiku is not going solo. He's bringing together some of the Nigeria's most prominent political figures. Peter Obi, the Labour Party's 2023 presidential candidate whose sudden rise disrupted the old political order. Also, Kayode Fayemi, former governor of Ekiti State and a key player in Nigerian politics. Nasir El-Rufai, the controversial former governor of Kaduna State, known for his sharp political maneuvers. These are not just any politicians. They are individuals with strong followings, political influence, and deep pockets. Together, they form what could be the most serious opposition coalition in recent years. Their argument: Nigeria is heading in the wrong direction under Tinubu, and it is time for change. Atiku himself has been vocal, saying that Nigeria needs urgent restructuring, economic reforms, and an inclusive government that represents all Nigerians. His allies echo this sentiment, arguing that Tinubu's administration has failed to deliver on its promises. But there is a problem. Political alliances in Nigeria are notoriously unstable. The opposition wants to challenge Tinubu, but can they challenge their own egos first? Atiku has been in the game for decades, but will he step aside for Obi, who captured youth support in 2023? Fayemi and El-Rufai also have ambitions. Will they accept playing second fiddle? The Labour Party and PDP are ideological rivals. Can they even work together? And then there is this issue of zoning. The Southeast believes it is their turn to produce the next president, which favors Peter Obi. But the North, where Atiku has a strong base, also won the seat. If the coalition fails to agree on a single candidate, their chances of defeating Tinubu will crumble. Meanwhile, Tinubu is not sitting idle. If there is one thing Bola Tinubu knows how to do, it is winning elections. In 2023, despite facing internal party conflicts, economic hardships, and a divided electorate, he outmaneuvered both Atiku and Obi to clinch victory. He understands the game better than anyone. Now, he controls the government and the APC's vast political machine. He has the power of incumbency, he has resources, he has experience. More importantly, he understands the opposition's weaknesses. If Atiku, Obi, and others fail to agree on a strategy and a candidate early enough, Tinubu could see divide and rule tactics to break them apart before 2027 even begins. Beyond the political games, the real question is, do Nigerians want a change? In 2023, voters' turnout was low, and public trust in politicians remained at an all-time low. Many believe that whether it's APC, PDP, or Labour, politicians are just different faces playing the same game. This coalition will have to do more than just oppose Tinubu. They will need to offer real solutions, inspire voters, and convince Nigerians that they are different from the politicians of the past. And time is running out. Atiku's coalition has made its first move, but the road ahead is long. Will they remain united, or will personal ambitions destroy the alliance? Will they choose a candidate that can truly challenge Tinubu? And most importantly, will Nigerians believe in them? The race for 2027 has already begun, and in Nigeria, politics is never predictable. Moving on, Kenyan officer missing in IT after gang ambush. The incident occurred on March 25, 2025 along the Karufe-Pius civilian supply route in the Atibonite region, one of the most dangerous parts of IT, where gangs rule with impunity.
Kenya has deployed hundreds of officers to support Haiti's struggling law enforcement, with an additional 200 officers arriving in February to join over 600 already present as part of a multinational force that includes personnel from Jamaica, Guatemala, and El Salvador.
The Kenya officer was part of a rescue operation attempting to help Haitian police officers trapped after gangs dug deep trenches to block law enforcement movement. But instead of a successful extraction, the mission ended in chaos and bloodshed. Eyewitness accounts describe a coordinated ambush. The Kenyan team was met with heavy gunfire, forcing them into a desperate retreat. In the confusion, one Kenyan officer went missing, and his fate remains uncertain. Local reports and gang-controlled social media channels have since circulated disturbing footage allegedly showing the lifeless body of the missing officer. But Kenya authorities have not confirmed these claims. Instead, a massive search operation is now underway, involving both Kenyan police and the Haitian National Police. Haiti is not just a troubled nation. It is a failed state in slow motion. More than 80% of Port-au-Prince is controlled by gangs. This criminal gives outnumber and outgun the Haitian police. They operate as de facto government, collecting taxes, running extortion rackets, and carrying out brazen acts of violence. Kidnappings, assassinations, and street battles have become daily realities. Just last month, Haiti's interim Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, was forced to flee the country after armed groups seized control of government buildings. Now, Haiti has no president, no functioning parliament, and no real authority. It is an anarchy. And in the middle of this chaos is Kenya, leading a multinational force tasked with restoring order. But is that even possible? The Kenya-led MSS mission is the first of its kind, an African nation taking the lead in stabilizing a Western Hemisphere crisis. The United States and United Nations backed it, pledging financial and logistical support. But now, just months into the mission, cracks are already showing. Kenya initially pledged 1,000 officers to Haiti. So far, 800 have been deployed. But they're facing a far more dangerous reality than expected. Gang warfare is escalating, and the mission is undermanned, outgunned, and outmatched. This latest attack isn't just a setback, it is a warning. Just last month, a Kenyan officer was killed in Haiti's Abotini region while responding to another gang attack. That was the first fatality for Kenyan forces. Now, with one officer missing, the risks are undeniable. So the big question, should Kenya stay in Haiti or cut its losses? Critics argue that Kenya was rushed into this deployment without a clear exit strategy. Haiti security forces are weak and disorganized. The political leadership is non-existent. The gangs are more powerful than ever. If the United Nations, the US military, and decades of international interventions failed to fix Haiti, why does Kenya think it can succeed? The mission was supposed to be different, a fresh approach led by African peacemakers. But how long before Kenya realizes it is fighting an unwinnable battle? For now, the search continues. The Kenya National Police Service (NPS) has reassured the public that every effort is being made to locate the missing officer. But if the worst is confirmed, Kenya will have to make some tough decisions. Will President William Ruto double down or reconsider Kenya's role? Will the Kenya public continue supporting a mission that is turning deadly? And will the international community step up to ensure Kenya is not left fighting this battle alone? One thing is clear. This is not what Kenya signed up for. Haiti remains a country in chaos, and the Kenyan forces are now caught in a war they never expected. And for the officers still missing, time is running out. Moving on. Russia-Ukraine Black Sea ceasefire. This ceasefire marks a fundamental shift in US foreign policy. Unlike the Biden administration, which poured billions of dollars into Ukraine's defense, the Trump administration has taken a different stance. Less military aid, more diplomacy, and a push for direct negotiations.
Donald Trump believes he's getting closer to a deal to end the war in Ukraine.
Look, they agreed to something and it got broken. There's tremendous animosity. There's a lot of hatred, as you can probably tell. And it allows for people to get together, mediate it, arbitrate it, and see if we can get it stopped.
After 2 days of talks in Saudi Arabia, the White House announcing a breakthrough, a ceasefire in the Black Sea, a first step with talks to follow about pushing on to a full peace deal. But Russia now making it clear the ceasefire only starts when the West drops some of its sanctions against it.
Trump has repeatedly said that he can end the war quickly. His administration's involvement in this ceasefire suggests that he's now testing that claim. He has slowed US military assistance to Ukraine, arguing that American taxpayers should not fund endless wars. He has refused to escalate sanctions on Russia, preferring negotiations over economic strangulation. And now, he has facilitated an agreement that could stabilize the Black Sea, a critical region for global trade and food security. This agreement has three key components. No military action in the Black Sea. Both Russia and Ukraine have agreed to halt attacks on commercial vessels and naval infrastructure for an initial period of 30 days. Second is protection of energy facilities. Russia and Ukraine will stop targeting each other's oil refineries and energy supply chains. Third is resumption of grain exports. Ukraine will be allowed to export grain freely, ensuring that global food prices do not spiral out of control. Sounds like a breakthrough, right? But look closer, and you see that this deal comes with strings attached. What's the need for Russia? Russia is not making this deal out of goodwill. Putin is a strategist, not a humanitarian. Its conditions are clear. First, sanction relief. Russia wants the US to ease financial restrictions, particularly allowing Russian banks to regain partial access to SWIFT payment system. Second, a break from Ukrainian drone attacks. Russia's oil refineries have been under heavy assault from Ukrainian drones, disrupting exports. This ceasefire gives Putin time to repair critical infrastructure. Also, diplomatic leverage. By agreeing to this deal, Putin can present himself as open to negotiations, shifting blame onto Ukraine if hostilities resume. What's the need for Ukraine? For Ukraine, this ceasefire is a double-edged sword. It allows Kyiv to export grain, helping its struggling economy. It reduces the threat of Russian naval attacks, at least temporarily. It gives Ukraine time to reinforce its own military positions. But the risk: Ukraine might be pressured into further negotiations with Russia on Russia's terms. Trump has hinted that he wants Ukraine to consider territorial concessions to secure a long-term peace deal. Zelensky has rejected this outright, but with the US reducing aid, Kyiv may face tough choices in the coming months. Let's be clear. This ceasefire is not the end of the war. Russia has broken ceasefire agreements before. Ukraine remains suspicious of Moscow's intentions. And Trump's approach, less military aid, more diplomacy, is controversial even within his own party. So, will this ceasefire hold? Three likely scenarios. The true oath and leads to diplomacy. The US eases some sanctions on Russia. Ukraine and Russia expand the ceasefire beyond 30 days. Trump pushes for a broader peace deal. If the ceasefire collapses, Ukraine resumes strikes on Russian oil facilities. Russia retaliates with full-force naval blockade. The Black Sea remains a conflict zone. The war shifts to other fronts. While the Black Sea stays quiet, fighting intensifies in the Donbass. Russia escalates attacks in Kyiv, and Odessa. The West debates whether to re-engage with military support. But the Trump administration is under pressure from all sides. Some Republicans want a complete withdrawal of US support from Ukraine. Others fear that appeasing Russia could backfire, strengthening Putin. European allies are worried about Trump's unpredictability and fear that a weakened Ukraine could mean more Russian aggression in the future. Trump wants a diplomatic win, but if Russia refuses to negotiate further, it may struggle to justify its policy shift. So the final question. Is this the beginning of the end? For now, the Black Sea is calm, but let's not be fooled. Ceasefires in this war do not last. If Russia uses this truce to regroup and rearm, Ukraine will be back to fighting a stronger enemy in a month's time. If Trump pushes Ukraine too hard to accept a political settlement, Zelensky could lose support at home and abroad. And if this ceasefire collapses, global markets will feel the shockwave, from energy prices to food security. So, is this a breakthrough or just another delay in an endless war? The answer will come in the next 30 days. Moving on, Gaza erupts. The people turn against Hamas in a historic uprising. A crisis within a crisis. The war in Gaza has taken an unexpected turn. For the first time since the conflict began, Hamas is facing a revolt, not from Israel, but from its own people. Yes, you heard that right. Gaza is no longer just a battleground between Hamas and Israel. It is now the epicenter of a rare historic uprising against Hamas itself. Palestinians are taken to the streets not to chant against Israel, not to demand international intervention, but to demand an end to Hamas's rule. And that is the real story. But yes, Hamas has controlled Gaza with an iron fist. Dissent was crushed, opposition was silenced, critics were either jailed or mysteriously disappeared. But now, the walls of fear are breaking. The protests began in Beit Lahia and Jabalia, two of the hardest hit areas in northern Gaza. But they did not stay there. Soon, the demonstrations spread to Gaza City. And what are the people saying? Hamas out. Enough of this war, we want food, not rockets. The frustration is boiling over, and Hamas is struggling to contain it. Eyewitnesses report that young men, women, and even families joined the protests. Some set tires on fire, others carried makeshift banners calling for peace. For Hamas, this is a nightmare. Why now? What triggered the revolt? For months, Gazans have been trapped in the middle of a war they did not start. Hamas launched its October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, triggering one of the worst or the deadliest conflict in recent history. The result, more than 50,000 Palestinians killed. Entire neighborhoods turned into rubble. No food, no water, no mercy, no hope. At first, Hamas blamed Israel, but now Gazans are asking a different question. What has Hamas done for us? The humanitarian situation is catastrophic. Famine is setting in. Hospitals are barely functioning. And while ordinary Palestinians suffer, Hamas leaders live in luxury. The people have had enough. What is Hamas's response? Repression and panic. Hamas does not tolerate opposition, and this time is no different. Armed men were sent to crush the protests. Reports from the ground say protesters were beaten. Dozens were arrested. Journalists were threatened for covering the demonstrations. Hamas fighters opened fire to disperse crowds. The message from Hamas: shut up or suffer the consequences. But here is the thing, fear is no longer working. The protests continue and more people are joining. For Hamas, this is an existential crisis. For Israel, this is a moment of validation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has long insisted that Hamas does not represent all Palestinians. He has said over and over again that Gazans are also victims of Hamas. This protest proves his point. Now, Israel has a choice. Exploit Hamas's weaknesses and intensify military operations. Allow the protests to go and let Hamas collapse from within. This is a rare strategic moment for Israel. The Israeli War Cabinet will be watching closely. So what happens next? This is not just another protest. This is a moment of reckoning. Will these protests grow? Will Hamas crush them before they become a revolution? Or will this be the first steps towards a Hamas-free Gaza? One thing is certain. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, the people of Gaza are saying enough, and the world is watching. Moving on. Trump's executive order, a masterstroke or a democracy nightmare. Donald Trump has done it again. The US president has just signed an explosive executive order that could change the way Americans vote forever. This order mandates that every voter must provide proof of US citizenship when registering for federal elections. It also ensures that only ballots received by election day will be counted. Trump calls it a victory for democracy. His critics call it a direct attack on voting rights. The battle lines are drawn. The gloves are off. The war for America's ballot box has begun. This isn't just another election reform. It is a political earthquake. Here is what Trump's new order does. No proof, no vote. Every American must prove their US citizenship to register. That means a passport, birth certificate, or a government-issued citizenship ID. No late ballot. Mail-in ballots must arrive by election day. No grace periods, no exceptions. No compliance, no funding. State that refuse to enforce this rule will lose federal funding. Trump says it's about protecting elections. His opponents say it's about rigging them. So who is right? Let's connect the dots. Trump isn't just thinking about 2028. This is a long-term power play. Look at what's happening. Trump lost key battlegrounds in 2022. He never let it go. Republicans struggled in 2022. Trump knows that voting rules could make or break future elections. Democrats relied heavily on mail-in ballots in 2020 and 2024. This executive order hits them where it hurts. Trump is setting the stage for the next decade of American politics, and is doing it with one signature. Within hours of the announcement, Democrats and civil rights groups erupted. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called it a full frontal assault on democracy. Senator Elizabeth Warren slammed it as a blatant attempt to suppress voters. The ACLU and other advocacy groups are already preparing lawsuits. The argument: millions of Americans, especially minorities and the poor, may not have immediate access to passport or birth certificate. The one that this order will block legal voters from casting their ballot. But Trump doesn't care about the outrage. He's playing to his base and for his supporters. This is exactly what they wanted. Make no mistake, this fight is heading straight to the courts. Legal experts argue that election rules are a state matter, not a federal one, but Trump is betting on one thing. The Supreme Court now has a strong conservative majority. The court has already ruled on election security measures in the past. If this case lands before them, Trump could win. And if that happens, this order could reshape American elections for generations. So what happens next? Here's what to watch for in the coming weeks: mass lawsuits, as well as legal challenges from multiple states and civil rights groups. Also, state resistance. Democratic-led states may refuse to comply and take the fight to Congress. Also, public backlash, protests, boycott, the response could be massive. One thing is certain: this is not just about one election. This is about who gets to vote in America and who doesn't. Trump is a master strategist. He's playing the long game. If this order survives legal challenges, it could permanently shift elections in favor of Republicans. If it gets struck down, it could galvanize Democrats like never before. Either way, America's electoral system will never be the same again. And this is just the beginning. Moving on. Richard Reeves' welfare cuts. Brace for impact. Chancellor Richard Reeves is about to make deep cuts to the UK's welfare system. The spring statement is here, and it comes with a brutal reality check. The government's planned savings are over €1 billion short. The solution: more cuts. This is the biggest shake-up in UK welfare since the conservative austerity measures. Universal credit, personal independence payments (PIP), and incapacity benefits are all on the chopping block. The government claims this is about economic responsibility. British call it a full-scale assault on Britain's most vulnerable. So what exactly is happening, and who's paying the price? Richard Reeves initially projected €5 billion in savings from welfare reform, but the Office for Budget Responsibility of Bihar just dropped a bombshell. Those savings aren't happening. Instead, the real figure is €3.4 billion. That leaves the Chancellor scrambling to fill a €1.6 billion gap. Here's how the government plans to do it. First, universal credit incapacity benefits. New claimants won't see an increase until 2030. Second, basic universal credit rate. A small but significant cut could come in 2029. Tighter personal independence payments (PIP) rules. Few people will qualify, making it harder for disabled individuals to get support. Crackdown on fraud and eligibility. More checks, more rejections, more people left without safety nets. The goal: save another €500 million, but at what cost? Let's be clear, Richard Reeves is facing an economic minefield. The UK's growth is sluggish, borrowing is up, and public finances are stretched thin. The government is desperate to cut spending while keeping the economy stable. But here is a contradiction. While welfare spending is being slashed, Reeves is pumping billions into defense. The government is set to increase defense spending by €22 billion over the next 5 years. The message: Britain can't afford to fund its poorest citizens, but it can afford more military power. The optics are terrible, and the backlash has begun. Labour MPs are worried. The opposition is furious. Civil rights groups are preparing legal challenges, and the British public, they are hungry. Opposition leader Keir Starmer calls the move economic creative disguised as reform. The Trade Union Congress (TUC) wants that this cut will push thousands into deeper poverty. Charities working with disabled people say this is a return to the harsh austerity of the 2010s. And let's not forget, The UK is heading into general elections soon. So what happens next? Rachel Reeves has made a move. Now the battle lines are drawn. Expect legal challenges. Human rights group could take the government to court over these changes. Also, public protest. The cost of living crisis is already biting hard. This could be the final spark. Also, political fallout. Will this gamble cost Labour its credibility, or will Reeves be praised for financial discipline? The UK's welfare system is about to change. For better or for worse. And this is just the beginning. And before I go, once again, the news headlines. Labour unions threaten national shutdown over rivers crisis. Articles Grand Coalition, a political earthquake or power play. Kenyan officer missing in IT after gang ambush. Russia-Ukraine Black Sea ceasefire. Gaza erupts, the people turn against the Hamas. Trump's executive order, a masterstroke or democracy nightmare. Rachel Reeves' welfare cuts. Thanks for staying tuned. Once again, I'm MARYAM OLUGBODE.